Drow. Welcome to another episode of Asexualized, my asexual life. This is a place to be for education about asexuality, all things asexual. I share my own asexual life journey in order to help you in yours. If you haven't already subscribed, please hit the great big subscribe button down below right here, right now. Please hit that bell icon to get notified of every time I go live like now, post new video. And don't forget to give this video a thumbs up as we go along. If you're enjoying the content, thank you to ever already give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate that. If you didn't know who I am Sandra Bellamy, author of this beautiful book, Asexual Perspectives, 47 Asexual Stories, Love, Life and Sex, A Celebration, Asexual Diversity. And thank you, Ray, so much. I'm also the founder of asexualise.com and the founder of Asexualise Academy. Lots of love, Ray, to you, my friend, for the thumbs up. Really appreciate it. So Asexual Awareness Week is going for 7 days. When I'm recording this live for you right now, it's October the 20th 2019. It is on for 7 days to the 26th of October 2019, and we're having an asexual meetup on the 27th of October, so it'll kind of be like an end to the end of the week, if you know what I mean. My best friend is coming down, asexual friends coming down on Friday, so I'm going to be spending a couple of days with them for Asexual Awareness Week towards the end of the week, and we're going to see Disney on Ice together. 100 years. My mum paid for my ticket to see that, so thank you, mum. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. So Asexual Awareness Week, what is it all about? So Asexual Awareness Week is all about educating people about asexuality, so people that have never heard of it before, just getting the word out there that there's nothing wrong or bad in not liking, wanting or needing sex. But some people still get really confused about what asexuality is. So I'm doing a series of videos, like one each night, about different things to do with asexuality. But first I want to start with the basics. If you've never ever really been told what asexuality means, then I'm going to go through that with you tonight, because I think it's really important to start with the basics first. I remember when I was at college, I did like a Photoshop course, Adobe Photoshop course, and I didn't have a clue what I was doing, because the guy who was a lecturer, he never went through the basics, and so I didn't understand what layers were or anything like that. And he's like, oh, you have to build these different layers, and I'm like, well, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what layers is, a black layer, a white layer, and so I got really confused. So I think it's best to start from the beginning. So tonight's episode literally is, what is asexuality? So asexuality is a sexual orientation. Okay, so if you think of A being as absence of sexuality, in a way, your absence of sexual attraction. So asexual means your absence of sexual attraction. So the A is put together with the sexual. So if I was talking about, for example, a heterosexual guy, I'd be saying they're a sexual person, A with a gap in between the A and the sexual. But when you talk about asexual and asexuality, asexual is all one word. The A and the sexual are completely combined together. And of course, this makes things very, very confusing when you're talking to sexuals about the fact you're asexual. And they're like, well, of course, so am I. I love sex. Do you know what I mean? They don't get it, because they obviously have never heard of asexuality before. They don't understand what it is. So to them, asexual, is just a completely term that they think means sexual, because they don't see it clumped together, and if they do, they don't recognize it as being being a separate thing, because they just think like it's a spelling error or something, or a grammar error. So it gets very confusing for sexuals. And even when I first found out I was asexual, I didn't like using the word, because it's like sexuals in the word itself, and I felt really weird, because I thought I'm not sexual because I'm asexual, don't like sex. So asexuality, the full definition by Wikipedia, is asexuality is the lack of sexual attraction towards anyone, and or little to no interest in sexual activity. So it's more broadly known as a lack of sexual attraction. That's what most people define it as. So basically, what does this mean? This means that, for example, with me, I never look at anyone and think, I want sex with you. Give me sex now. I need sex. I love sex. I enjoy sex. I don't think like that whenever I look at a guy, because I'm only attracted to guys. So there's a lot of myths and stereotypes about asexuality. Guys often get called gay if they're asexual. Females can get called lesbians if they're asexual. And there are people who would identify as gay and asexual, and lesbian and asexual. So within the asexual spectrum, so the asexuality is the sexual orientation. People within this sexual orientation that lack sexual attraction are called asexuals. And asexuality is also a spectrum, ranging from those who are like pure asexuals, as in they don't experience any sexual attraction whatsoever, no need, no urge or want or desire for sex in the slightest, to those who are more on the sexual end of the asexual spectrum. So if you think about the whole of sexuality that exists in the entire world, planet, universe, you think of it as a piece of string. And, you know, like this end of the string is those who don't experience any sexual attraction. And then when you go towards the end of the string, this is where the sexual attraction starts. And this is why their asexual spectrum is so broad, like a piece of string, because you've got those people who are not sexually attracted at all, ranging from those who are further, you know, these people aren't sexually attracted. They aren't romantically attracted, say, as well, which are aromantic asexuals. So within asexuality, you can get other orientations within it, like aromantics are people who don't experience any romantic attraction, but you can get aromantic sexuals and aromantic asexuals. Most people pronounce it aromantic. I pronounce it as aromantic. It's basically the word romantic with an A shoved together, like asexuality. But as I'm a romantic asexual, it does get a bit confusing for me. So I prefer aromantic. I pronounce it like that because I think it, for me, it flows better, and I like to be different anyway. So yeah, so you don't confuse an aromantic sexual person with an aromantic asexual person. So an aromantic asexual person won't experience any romantic attraction or sexual attraction. Aromantic sexual person will experience sexual attraction but not romantic attraction. So they might like, you know, the sexual will enjoy the sex. If they're aromantic sexual, they might just want sex and no romance, no interaction afterwards, no relationship, because they're not bothered. Whereas an asexual aromantic, although they don't experience any romantic attraction or sexual attraction, they usually are very, very strong on platonic affection and platonic attraction and deep platonic bond. So whereas a sexual person who's aromantic sometimes can be seen as quite cold or, you know, unwarming because they experience no romantic attraction, so they can skip straight to the sex part because there's no romantic bond there. A asexual aromantic person could be seen as more really like beautiful heart, really open for relationship, even though they're not, because they're not romantically attracted, a lot of them. But some are open to relationships, some are in relationships with sexuals, some are relationships with other asexuals. So, you know, just because someone lacks romantic attraction doesn't mean to say they don't want a relationship still, which is what is a huge myth. Do you know what I mean? People think, oh, if someone doesn't experience any sexual attraction, doesn't experience any romantic attraction, then why would they want a relationship? But aromantic asexuals, some of them can just want what we call a queer platonic relationship, or something known as a QPR, queer platonic relationship, which means they're like a really deep, bestest ever friendship that goes more than the normal friendship would be. So maybe they cuddle in bed and they share a house together, or they share their bed together. Maybe they might hold hands a bit, but kissing, they're usually not bothered about all that stuff because they're not romantic. Of course, there is exceptions to the rule. I know an aromantic sexual person who supports me on my asexual page, which is so lovely. And she is married to a heterosexual romantic guy. And she, although she's an aromantic sexual person, aromantic heterosexual, her husband is she's an aromantic sexual person, heterosexual. He's a romantic heterosexual. She supports me on my asexual channel, my asexual page, which is, you know, supports this channel basically on Facebook. And so she makes a lot of comments, bless her, and she said she loves kissing and cuddling and affection, even though she doesn't experience any romantic attraction. So within every type of identity, you get all these nuances, these niches, these differences. And this is why it's so hard for an asexual a lot of the time to find a relationship. Because, you know, like, although that person's not asexual that I just mentioned, you know, there are people who are asexual, aromantic, they don't experience a romantic attraction, but they're still with sexuals. There's one person who's very well known in the asexual community, and she's been married 25 years to a guy. Actually, he found out he was demisexual, I believe, this year. So he is actually asexual after all, but on the demisexual, which is the sexual end of the spectrum, which I'll be coming on more onto soon. So if I go back to like the aromantic asexuals that don't experience any romantic attraction, don't experience any sexual attraction, to like the more sexual end of the asexual spectrum, there's so many different like subcategories of asexuality. Like there's so many, it's just mind-blowing. But if you think kind of the romantics are in the middle, and then the sort of more sexuals are at this end, right? Then in the aromantic spectrum, so you've got the aromantic spectrum within the asexual spectrum, and also you have aromantic spectrum within the sexual spectrum, so it gets a bit confusing. So like I said, aromantics are those that lack any romantic attraction or any sexual attraction at all, right? But within the aromantics, you have different types of people within that, right? So you get the pure aromantic asexuals, those that lack all romantic attraction, lack all sexual attraction. So you could argue the purest form of asexual you could get. And then within that, you have the grey asexuals. Grey romantics, not a grey asexuals. Grey asexuals are on the more sexual end of the spectrum. Grey romantics. So you got the aromantics, the grey romantics, which are part of the grey, which are part of the it's part of the grey romantic spectrum within the. This is going to really confuse you. So basically, there's 4 types of aromantics. It's easier if I say it like that. One is a pure aromantic, it doesn't experience any romantic or sexual attraction. The other one's a grey romantic, who experiences romantic attraction only under limited, rare, or specific circumstances, but not enough to want to act on it. Then there is the demi-romantic, which is someone who will experience romantic attraction, but only when a deep emotional bond has been formed, and that's not with everyone. And if a romantic bond's been formed, it doesn't necessarily mean to say, you know, it's definitely going to be romantic attraction, but you know, it will take, like, for an aromantic to feel any romance, even if they are demi-romantic, it could take them years, and they might not feel it for everyone, you know, like they might only feel it for a couple of people in their life, or not at all. And then there is a hetero-romantic asexuals. So a hetero-romantic asexual aromantic, so the aromantics are aromantic, grey romantic, demi-romantic, and hetero-romantic. This is like the aromantic spectrum within the asexual spectrum. And so the hetero-romantic can want and desire a romantic relationship despite not experiencing any romantic attraction whatsoever. They don't experience anything, but they want and strongly desire a romantic relationship. Like, it's so predominant in their lives. Sometimes it really makes them ill, some of them, because they like so crave it badly, even though they can't experience a romantic attraction. It's very frustrating for them. So, you know, so I hope you understand that now. So the aromantics are those who don't experience any romantic attraction or any sexual attraction if they're an aromantic asexual person. And within that spectrum, there's an aromantic asexual, a grey romantic asexual, a demi-romantic asexual, and a hetero-romantic asexual. These are all aromantics. So aromantic, grey romantic, demi-romantic, hetero-romantic, right? They all fall on the asexual aromantic spectrum. And then, like, there's lots of subcategories, like I said, you know, variations, people cross over. So you could get a demisexual aromantic, for example, and a grey romantic something else. Do you see what I mean? They all cross over, so you got to be like careful, because it's quite hard to understand. So then in the middle, if you think about the romantic asexuals, right, you tend to have 4 main types of romantic asexuals. You have the panromantics. They are the ones that are romantically attracted to anyone, everyone in terms of gender. They're not going to be attracted to anyone and everyone, but they have the potential to be attracted to anyone and everyone. So that's male, female, non-binary, gender fluid, all those type of different type of, genders, basically. Any type of gender a pan-romantic can be romantically attracted to. They're more attracted to personality than anything. So it could be male, female, like I said, agender, transgender, non-binary, gender fluid. They can be attracted to any of those type of people, right? That's a pan-romantic. If you think of it like you're on a camera and you're taking like a pan picture, panoramic, I think it's called. I'm so busy saying pan-romantic because I think it's panoramic, is it? Or the one where basically you take the picture and it goes woo like that. So that's how I kind of remember it. And then a biromantic person is someone who's attracted romantically to male and female genders. And then a homoromantic is someone who's attracted to the same gender. So that some people who identify as homoromantic asexual could identify as a lesbian asexual or a gay asexual. They're attracted to the same gender. And other people don't like using those terms, gay and lesbian, in terms of asexuality at all, because they feel like that's still sexual, because a gay usually has sex and a lesbian usually has sex. So they prefer to call themselves homoromantic asexual. And then you have the heteroromantic asexuals, which is what I am. So heteroromantic asexual is just romantically attracted to the opposite gender or sex. I'm female, I was born female, so I'm only attracted to guys. In my case, younger guys. But so it's it's hard to find a relationship when you've got so many different types of asexuals, And then within those categories, you can get lots of different subcategories, and sort of in between, more on the grey end of the spectrum rather than the other, sort of like the aromantics and the romantics are kind of like, they're quite obvious. But then when you go into the grey asexual spectrum, the more sexual end, that's when it really starts to get loads of subcategories. Do you know what I mean? And starts having lots of nuances more and more. So on the more sexual end of the asexual spectrum, you've got the grey asexuals, which the textbook definition of a grey asexual is someone who does experience sexual attraction under limited, rare, or specific circumstances, or who does experience it but not enough to want to act on it. So this type of asexual, they might end up with relationships, and a grey asexual might only a grey asexual, like I said, they might experience sexual attraction, but it's not enough to want them to have sex. It's not enough for their mind and their body to like, oh yeah, I really want sex now. It just doesn't get that far with them. That's one type of grey romantic. Or the other type of grey romantic is not grey romantic, grey asexual. I'm getting confused myself now. So a grey romantic is someone on the aromantic spectrum that only experiences romantic attraction under limited, rare, or specific circumstances. A grey asexual is someone on the more sexual end of the spectrum who only experiences sexual attraction under limited, rare, or specific circumstances, or, as I just said, not enough to want to act on it. So in the case of does experience it under limited, rare, or specific circumstances, that might only be with one person in their life, or it might only be in certain types of scenarios that they can find it attractive. Do you know what I mean? And so it's really strange, because I feel like I don't, I'm definitely a heteroromantic asexual, but I have great areas of sexual behavior when I kiss, but I don't experience any sexual attraction. So really I'm definitely a heteroromantic, but because I'm very different to a lot of heteromantics, because they're not so into kissing like I am, it does become a bit difficult for me. So a demisexual is someone who does experience sexual attraction when a deep emotional bond has been formed. That pretty much sums up demisexual. However, it goes a lot deeper than that, because people are like, well, even heterosexuals, often they need some emotional bond. And some of them do. I do agree with that, but it's more than that. So with a demisexual, they literally cannot experience sexual attraction whatsoever. when a deep emotional bond is formed, it's categorically impossible for them to experience that. So it becomes very frustrating if the demisexual would actually usually like to have sex if they met the right person that they were emotionally connected to. But if they can't emotionally connect to anyone and deeply bond with them, they just can't have sex. They can't go on a night out and just like have sex with anyone. It doesn't work that way for a demisexual, whereas a heterosexual could really if they wanted to. Do you know what I mean? And so, and usually with a demisexual, the bond has to be reciprocated. So literally, you have to be bonded both ways and equally feel it. And if that bond disintegrates or stops for some reason, then the demisexual can stop experiencing sexual attraction. I know what happened in my demisexual and grey asexual dating group that I run. There was this person that posted one time that they were in a relationship, a polyamorous relationship. So I'm fiercely monogamous. I basically only want to be with one guy in a relationship. I don't want to be with multiple people. But in a polyamorous relationship, the person wants to be with more than one person. And asexuals can be like this, not just sexuals. And this person was a demisexual and their partner was too. But then when they had a third person come in, they were losing sexual attraction for the person who was their first love, if you know what I mean, before the other person came in. And they weren't resentful, they weren't hating the new person, but the sexual attraction was just pretty much gone or going, you know? And that was kind of sad for the person, I think, you know, because I kind of think they got a bit confused as to what was going on. So that's how I know that the bond has to be maintained and sustained both ways, you know? And I actually asked them that in my group, you know, is this correct? And they said, yeah. So within grey asexuality, for example, demisexual comes under the grey asexual category because demisexual is only, the person can only feel sexual attraction when a deep emotional connection has been gained, right? And so therefore, that comes under the grey asexual spectrum because of asexuality, because it's still under limited or rare or specific circumstances that they can have sex. Do you see what I mean? When a deep emotional bond has been formed. Right, it can be hard to meet someone, it can. And I'm getting really hot here because I've not got the window open tonight. Sorry, I'm going to take my top off because I'm literally just sweating. So, now my hair's a mess, but never mind. I'll be cold again in a minute. So yeah, it can be a nightmare, right? It can be hard to meet someone because do you see what I mean? There's so many different types of asexuality, and there's something called phrasexual. And so a phrasexual person comes under the grey asexual spectrum. A phrasexual person is someone who is sexually attracted to people, but then once they're in a relationship, the sexual attraction goes. So they might have been in a relationship for 8 months and then the sexual attraction just goes and they don't want to have sex anymore, which is no good if they're with a sexual person. But they want to be with a sexual person usually in the beginning because they experience sexual attraction and want the sex. And it's the same with a Hetero-Romantic as well. A Hetero-Romantic experiences romantic attraction until they get into the the relationship, and then the romantic attraction goes. Do you know what I mean? And that's hard for both people. And so there's lots of nuances as well. I mean, there was a term called ace flux that someone asked about on this channel, which is fluctuations of grey asexuality, I believe. There was a bit more to it than that. But, I don't know every single term. There are so many different categories. There's lots and lots of different subcategories and crossovers. So you could have an aromantic demisexual, for example, a grey romantic grey sexual, for example. So with the grey asexuals, you can get grey asexuals, grey sexuals, or grey A's. Those three are like lumped together as the same thing, which is what I explained earlier. When they experience sexual attraction under limited, rare, or specific circumstances, or not enough to want to act on it. But with me, I identify fully as a heteromantic grey asexual younger cougar who doesn't like sex, just kissing. And the reason I put that on my dating profile is because obviously I want to attract younger guys and then repel the older guys that usually contact me, because I just like younger guys, usually in their 20s, but obviously a lot of them don't know what they want, or they haven't got the finances to have a proper relationship, or they're just not at a stage in their life, which is a bit of a pain. But that's why I put the cougar thing. But I'm an asexual cougar, not sexual, so I don't want to have sex with younger guys. I just want to kiss, cuddle, and hold their hand and have a teenager style relationship 24/7, 365 days a year, basically. And but it's I put the grey A on there, even though I'm not actual textbook grey A, because I don't experience any sexual attraction whatsoever. Diddly squat, nothing. But when I kiss, I got very sexual behaviour with the kissing. And I make breathing noises like I'm having sex, which is very, very weird. It's because I get excited over the kissing. Sex does nothing for me, but the kissing does. So that's the way I explain it, But it's kind of weird because I'm kind of too sexual in behaviour in those ways when I'm kissing for asexuals, but not sexual enough for sexuals. So because they like nakedness and I don't, and they obviously want the sex and I don't, and people on the more grey end of the asexual spectrum, they tend to be liking nudity more, breasts more, and things like that, and I don't want a guy like that that's into all that stuff. Do you know what I mean? And so it becomes like a bit of a kind of like between a rock and a hard place, that I'm not a actual textbook grey asexual, but I'm definitely hetero-romantic. But most hetero-romantics I know, they don't want to kiss for hours like I do. Do you know what I mean? And a lot of them aren't as romantic as me. So it gets very difficult finding the right person. And this is why a lot of people who are asexual find it difficult to attract the right person. But there are asexuals that do find each other and be in relationships. One of my friends, asexual friend, they got married to their asexual partner 31st of August this year. They're doing so well. He's got his partner for life. And to get that partner, he had to literally travel up and down the country of his own accord for about 3 months. He went to every single meetup he could find, every different, the different weekends for about 3 months solid, up and down the UK, just to find the love of his life, because he was determined to do it. And that's the type of mentality and mindset you've got to have. But I find a lot of the time in the asexual community, in regards to relationships, because the sex is not there, unfortunately there's a lack of motivation in general. I'm generalizing because I do know asexuals that definitely do want a relationship, but in general I find because there's no sexual attraction, there's not the urgency to have a relationship, there's not the pull, there's not the motivation there. It's more like, well, if I find someone, I find someone for a relationship. I do it, or I'm not bothered at the moment, or I can't find anyone at the moment, and everything's like not happening. But a lot of people aren't very proactive about it, they're more reactive. Do you know what I mean? You have to be really proactive about it. You have to go and put yourself on these dating sites, you have to post, you have to speak to people and message people, you have to deal with rejection. Do you know what I mean? It's like I tried something new recently, which is how I met Ray. And I went in sexual dating groups on Facebook, which has been an experience, I'll say. And and there was someone that I liked, but who I meant to have a date with actually this Monday, but that's not going ahead now because they weren't the right person for me in the end. So that's the end of that, really. But I had a bit of hopes for that person. They were heterosexual, not asexual, but they said they could live without sex. But yeah, not the right person at all for me. But I wish them well anyway. So yeah, so you do have to get out of your comfort zone, I think. You do have to try new and different things. And, there are some people who are heterosexuals that could be without sex, but they're very, very few and far between. You're very lucky if you find someone genuine. And what you have to remember is don't let anyone manipulate you or control you or push you into doing what they want within a relationship because they're holding you to ransom over having no sex. Do you see what I mean? What I mean by that is I've come across people in my life, particularly when they're sexuals, not asexual, and because they think you're lacking in your life and that you need a relationship, which clearly I don't, but it'd be nice to have one, they kind of like I've experienced this over a long period of time, not just like recently, but you know, because obviously I'm in the sexual dating groups on Facebook. Like the other day, I got messaged by, was it 11 people or something, and a lot of them seem to think that because you aren't liking sex that you can't get anyone. So you've got to put up with their rubbish, basically. Don't put up with their rubbish. You know, don't have a scarcity mindset that, oh, this is the only person I can get, and they say they can live without sex. Because can they really live without sex? The proof is in the pudding that actions are louder than words. Although sometimes words have a very powerful effect, you know? And you got to be so careful that people are honest and trustworthy. You know, sometimes you can think people are honest and trustworthy because they can seem to be proving they are, but then they do things that contradict that. Do you know what I mean? Like I said about a red flag on here recently, about a person, you know, that I'd met, and they were asking me to go to their country when I'd loaned them less than 12 hours. Do you know what I mean? To go out and fly to their country. If anyone's asking you to do that, you know, don't do it. You know what I mean? You don't even know the person. You know, the person shouldn't be asking you to go to their country when they don't even know you. And why would they expect, you know, someone to go on their own? That's, you know, it's just ridiculous. If they want to come, they can come to you or not bother. That's my advice to you. Do you know what I mean? And it's really important. So many lie in those groups too. Yeah, I know, Ray. It's really sad. It's really sad. You know, they do lie. They do lie. And the fact is, when they try to stop you from saying certain things, and you know that they're not telling the truth even more, they've got stuff to hide. And watch out for, like I said, anyone that makes you feel bad, anyone that makes you feel like you can't get someone else because, you know, you don't want sex, so you won't get anyone to put up with me or marry me or have, you know, be with me. Don't think like that, because you either get someone else or you'll be better off on your own. Trust me, you know. And they do lie in the groups. They, you know, I had a person recently and I thought they were very trustworthy by their actions, but sometimes people, when they have actions that are so pushing for trustworthiness, do you know what I mean? That in and of itself is like, how come you're so professional at doing this type of thing? Do you know what I mean? And if they give you a red flag or any more than one red flag, do you know what I mean? It's time to let them go, really. So don't think just because you're asexual that you won't find anyone, or that you deserve any less because you don't want sex, because you deserve the best possible open, honest relationship. And yeah, you deserve someone who's proud of you, proud to be with you, who will love you for who you are and won't tell you a pile of bullshit, basically. And so it's so important, you know, it's important that we get the word of asexuality out there, the lack of sexual attraction, so that people understand that not everyone wants sex, you know, because basically it's just a lie. You're born with a conditioned lie that everyone needs, wants, and likes sex in a relationship. And asexuality is pretty much the opposite of that. So there are some asexuals that have sex, and people are like, I don't get that. If you lack sexual attraction, why would you have sex? Why would you want sex? Why would you need sex, right? So with asexuals, there are asexuals who are sex repulsed, which is what I am these days, even though I had sex in the past. Like, the whole idea repulses me. It just really revolts me. I don't like it at all. I don't need it. I don't want it. I'm not interested in it, right? Then you've got the ones that are in between. They're kind of sex positive, you know, or, well, sex positive would be the opposite end. So you've got the people like me, sex repulsed, and then you've got sex positive, who, you know, they're kind of pro sex even though they're asexual. But even some sex positive people, they divide into people that are sex positive for other people and sex positive for themselves. Like, I am sex positive for others who are sexual and enjoy sex, or who want sex, but I'm sex repulsed for me. So I identify as a sex repulsed asexual, not a sex positive person, because I'm overall sex repulsed because I hate sex. I don't like it at all. But I am still sex positive for people who love sex, want it, need it, and they're in a relationship with another person who loves it, wants it, needs it, and it's all consensual. I'm happy for that, you know. But in general, sex positive asexuals are ones that don't mind having sex. They're cool about it. They're not bothered whether they have it one way or the other, sometimes, but they're more like likely gonna have it. And then you've got the ones in the middle that are sort of known as, I think it's apathetic, or neutral. And so they're like literally don't really have an opinion that much about sex. They can take it or leave it, which some sex positive people can take it or leave it, but the sex positive people are more likely to be able to have sex in a relationship because they're so positive about it. They don't really see a problem not experiencing sexual attraction by having sex. Do you know what I mean? So it's kind of like, this is where it gets, you know, more confusing. And this is why in the asexual community sometimes there is some disagreements, you know, about what asexuality means. Because even within the asexual community, people that are sex repulsed are like, how can you even have sex if you're asexual? Why would you want to? You're not really asexual because you want sex, and if you don't experience any sexual attraction, why would you want it? And I think you've got to ask yourself the question, if you're thinking, are you asexual? Is it a want as in a desire for it? Is it a need, urge, or want? Like, I want it now, because that's not being asexual. You know, asexuality is a lack of sexual attraction. So you don't get the need, urge, or want, like, oh, I'd love to do that now. Right? If, however, you are in a relationship and the other person wants sex, you might want to have it to please them. So you really like are doing it more as a practical thing, or maybe you're experiencing like a favorite board game and you like board games. Maybe you're just, you know, doing it for kids. Some asexuals do it to have children as well. They do want kids, so they will have sex to have children and not have sex ever again. But you know, you have to kind of like know that there's different types of asexuals. And just because someone doesn't experience sexual attraction doesn't mean to say they can't have sex. And it doesn't mean to say they won't ever have it, because some will, because they're in a relationship with a sexual person and they're thinking, well, I want to please them and make them happy. Usually, though, they would have sex less than the average heterosexual person quite a lot of the time. They might negotiate how often they have it, how many weeks, but in my Asexual Guide to Sex book, there's quite a lot of eye-openers in regards to how often people do have sex when they're on the asexual spectrum. It's very, very, very interesting read. I love writing it. It's a really good book. And so, you know, this is why it gets so confusing, because I can understand the sex repulsed asexuals because I'm sex repulsed myself, but I have had sex in the past. That doesn't mean to say I'm not asexual because I've had it in the past, but I had it because I thought I had to. But there are some asexuals that are in relationships and they will have sex with sexuals. And as we're just a recorded 1% of the population, that means 1 in every 100 potential people you meet are asexual. Then we're kind of like smaller in numbers to obviously the larger heterosexual population, or sexual population even in general. So it means that we're more likely to get into a relationship with a sexual person than an asexual person, statistically. Also, there tends to be more asexual females than males within the asexual spectrum. There tends to be more women asexuals than males. There also tends to be more aromantic asexuals, those who lack romantic attraction, sexual attraction, more than any other type of asexual. So that makes life even more difficult, because if you are a romantic asexual, that limits you. So I personally am a romantic asexual and I'm only attracted to guys. So pretty much all the aromantic asexuals are no good for me to be in a relationship with, because I'm known as a hyper-romantic asexual, which I didn't tell you. So my full title can be Hetero-Romantic, Hyper-Romantic, Grey Asexual Younger Cougar who doesn't like sex, just kissing. So I absolutely loathe romance 24/7, 365 days a year. I go out self-dating. It makes me really happy. And I really love being loved up 24/7, feeling romance all the time, feeling love hearts, all smiley hearts, all things beautiful and romantic. I love it. So it's really important that you understand yourself as best as you can. Like, when you learn about asexuality, it is a journey of discovery. It took me about 3 weeks to find out how I identified. It was someone else that told me I was grey asexual. not just a hetero-romantic, because it was someone who used to organise asexual meetups, and they're like, well, because of the kissing, you're grey asexual. But actually, because I don't experience any sexual attraction, I'm not textbook grey A. Do you see what I mean? That's why I don't like the term grey sexual for me, or grey asexual. I only like the term grey A because I redefine grey A in my asexual perspectives book, which I know Ray's got a copy of. I redefine it in there to mean areas, you know, like grey areas, which I think personally grey A should be a separate thing to the grey sexual and grey asexual. I think it should literally mean those people who have sexual behaviour but no sexual attraction, like me, because I feel like there isn't really any specific category where someone doesn't experience any sexual attraction, but they do have one like dominating factor of where they do have sexual behaviour, which in my case is the kissing. So otherwise, you know, it's kind of like I don't really fit exactly anywhere. And sometimes it's good not to fit in a specific box. It's great. But other times it feels a bit like, it feels a bit of a lonely place, in the sense of, I'm not that I'm lonely because I don't need to be with anyone, but it feels like you're on your own. Do you know what I mean? It's like, hello, is there anyone in this little hole with me? Do you know what I mean? I'm a hetero-romantic. I have some sexual behaviour with kissing, but I don't actually experience any sexual attraction. Is there anyone like me? Hello, hello. And that's kind of how it feels sometimes, you know? I don't really think there's many people like that. And especially as I'm a hyper-romantic anyway. So that means I can feel romantic attraction for someone, or emotionally attracted them very, very quickly, or any type of attraction very, very quickly to a person, because I skip platonic attraction. I don't experience any platonic attraction or sexual, and that's very unusual for an asexual person. Most asexuals, they experience some form of platonic attraction, even if they're a romantic person, and then they develop that into romantic feelings. This is not the same for me. I just skip that as soon as I meet a person. If I'm attracted to them, it's usually quite instant. Do you know what I mean? And I can be romantically attracted to them, aesthetically attracted to them, spiritually attracted to them, emotionally attracted to them. Usually, though, with it being hyper romantic, it's a romantic attraction. So if I talk to a young or foreign guy, for example, I can get very romantically attracted to him very quickly when I don't even know him. I'm better than what I used to be. Like I'm not as fully invested, which thank God. I had to train myself a lot to do that. But yeah, asexuality is a huge spectrum, as you can see. It's just a bit blinding. Like there's so many variations, and this is why it gets so confusing for people. And this is why, you know, it does get confusing as well, because, you know, you got to be careful, because some sexuals who are not really asexual, they come in and say, oh, well, I'm asexual, but I like sex. And you got to be very careful, because usually when they're phrasing it like that, they're not actually asexual. But obviously there are some asexuals that don't experience any sexual attraction, but they do like the actual physical act of sex. They like the way it makes them feel. They like the activity to do. They like the closeness and bond with their partner. So this is where, you know, you've got to try and use your own judgment as to whether a person's telling the truth. If you're on asexual dating sites or ASAP or anything like that, you've got to kind of like read between the lines. Is this person telling me the truth? You know, if they say I'm asexual but I'm sex positive, so if I meet someone, you know, I'm okay to do that, then yeah. But if you've got someone saying, oh, I'm asexual, I like sex, and like straight away like that, a lot of the time they don't understand what asexuality means. They think it means that I'm an asexual, as in I love sex, you know. So because they've clumped I'm asexual and loving sex or liking sex straight together, with no kind of like, you know, no regard for actual what asexuality is whatsoever, if you know what I mean. So there is an app for asexuals called ASAP, which you can download to Android or iPhone. It's a little picture of a little cake on the front, but it doesn't give the definition of asexuality on there like it used to. And so you do get some people on there that are not really asexual at all, which I often find out. And I've done videos on this channel before. Scratch my head tonight. Done videos on this channel before of people that are some scammers on there. But, you know, you get them on any type of dating site and things. You're not just on that thing. But you just have to understand the signs to look out for, which I cover in other videos on this channel. But yeah, I hope you've understood asexuality somewhat. I know it's a lot to take in. If you got a bit stuck, there is a free Asexuality Basics for Beginners course. It's down below. And there is, look, my hair's really messy tonight. It's because I took my top off earlier. But not every top Do you know what I mean? The top. I don't like nudity, remember? So yeah, but down below in the links below is asexualizeacademy.com, and that gives you access to a free Asexuality Basics for Beginners course. So if you haven't understood what I'm saying, there is, you know, more to understand in depth with the course, because it gives diagrams and stuff, so it's a little bit easier to understand than me just talking now to you. It's broken down more into sections. Do you know what I mean? I think it's 14 sections of video training, you know, free, so doesn't cost you anything to sign up, completely free of charge. So asexualizeacademy.com is definitely the place to go to. And if you sign up to the mailing list there as well, you get like discounts or early bird offers on future courses as well, which will be, you know, paid courses that you will charge, you know, that you'll be paying for, as opposed to free, but you'll get some discount on it. So that's really good to like sign up to that anyway. But don't forget, you know, if you've got any questions, comments, or anything you'd like to ask me, you can always leave it down below. And you know, even if I've not answered it already, I can answer it in between time and maybe do another video if there's something you're really unsure about that I haven't covered in this one. I will be going, as the week progresses, into other things like the difference between sexual attraction, sexual desire, and arousal. They're different, and I'll be talking about them very soon in another video for you, because I think it's very, very interesting, and it's very good to explain these differences, because I thought I was heterosexual for years, because I didn't realize that sexual attraction and arousal are two complete different things. Your books are very helpful too. Oh, thank you, Ray. Thank you so much. I'm sure you'll leave me a review on Amazon, won't you? That'd be good when you finish reading my books. But yeah, it's really, really good. Yeah, you should get this book if you haven't already, because this does explain asexuality really well. But it doesn't just tell you in textbook definition, it actually explains the asexual spectrum through people's stories. So it's much better than looking up at Wikipedia or even Wiki as to definitions of asexuality. You should definitely get this book, like Ray says, basically, which Ray's got this Asexual Perspectives, but the link's down below. It's out on Kindle or in print, you know. And this is an amazing book. Look at how many pages it is. I interviewed 46 asexuals across the globe for this, and my oh, thanks, Ray. My own stories in the book, you know. And so it's really important. I mean, look at all this information, all these different people that are asexual, you know, all different nationalities and ethnicities, and it's just a really well put together book, in my personal opinion. I mean, I can't help say that, because I know loads of people took part in it, just not, you know, not just me. And so if you're ever confused about the asexual spectrum, about the differences between love life and sex, about how to cope in a highly sexualized world, this is definitely the book for you, with guidance and stuff. It's a really good book. So I would recommend definitely getting that, especially as Asexual Awareness Week. Treat yourself. Get someone to buy it for you. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there for tonight. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you, Ray. You're absolutely amazing friend. Love you to bits as my friend. Thank you to whoever else has been watching this whole show this whole time. I really appreciate you. And thanks for giving it a thumbs up. Any more thumbs up would be greatly appreciated. If you didn't already subscribe, please hit the great subscribe button down below right here, right now. Please hit that bell icon to get notified of every time I go live like now or post a new video. And don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. And until next time, embrace your quirky and each other's. And I'll be doing another Asexual Awareness Week video soon, in the next 24 hours, so look out for that. Anyway, take care and lots of love to you, and I will see you soon. Have a good day. Embrace your quirky and each other's. Bye bye.